think I'm just going to bring the transmission outside the grind, but my car is in the way. And sucks that I got a big ass puddle right there right now. But one of the cool features of this is you can pretty much drive your car with your phone. So I don't have to go step in the puddle. And perfect. So I got everything masked off, covered up. It's completely dust free. All the plugs are in. I'm going to be using a 36 grit flap wheel and getting in here and going to hit a couple of the spots that I think are the issue. I didn't have the camera rolling earlier, and I thought that I did, but there were two other issues that were going on with the fitment here. One of the things is that the bolts for the factory flex plate have a big ass head on them, and they're hitting an area of the back of the converter. So I got ARP flywheel bolts, but see the size of the head? I need this size head, but when you compare it, that bolt is, I don't know, probably 10 millimeters longer. So I can't use them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach out to ARP, and they've always been really good with custom situations. So I'll just tell them, hey, this is what I have, this is what I need. They can just pretty much run the dimensions and tensile strength through their catalog, and they have something. They definitely have something that'll fit this. I just don't know what it is, but when I find out, I'll let you guys know. It's probably like a weird flywheel bolt for you know, like a Mitsubishi or something like that, but they'll cross-reference something. And like I said, they've always been good on everything, and that's pretty much it. So I can't put the flex plate on because I don't have the right bolts. I'm gonna try to retest fit the converter once I get everything cleaned up. All right, got my torque converter ready, and hopefully she pops right on this time. Definitely gonna need a rubber mallet for this. So everything's cleaned up in there. The torque converter's filled. The dust cap's all removed. Alright, that's not good. So, what I'm hearing is that's the ribs on the back of the converter running up on the webbing that I was taking down on the bell housing. The bell housing is pretty thick, but that's gonna weaken it if I keep grinding down on that. Man, this sucks. So basically, the back of the converter is pretty much rubbing absolutely everywhere on this. So I can try to cut down the bell housing some more, figure out where exactly it's try to figure out exactly what it's hitting against. I thought it was those two areas that I've got. The other thing is, it might not be in the location where it needs to be. Like, it might be okay if it slides up 1/4 of an inch. What I got to do now is measure underneath the truck and get a measurement of the relationship with the flat part of the bell housing to where the mating surface is of the transmission, and to see if that converter needs to go back further, forward. If it can go forward, it's fine, but I don't think it's going to. Interesting, I just measured the flex plate in relationship with where the bell housing rests against the block, and it was 1.001 inches, or 25.43 millimeter. So just had a quick visual on this. I'm out a very good bit, meaning this converter needs to go in quite a bit. If I just eyeball this, the converter is only in 0.680 inches, or 17.27 millimeter. So roughly 1/3 of an inch. So what that means is I'm gonna have to try to mark this off somehow. Shit. Try to figure out exactly where it's hitting at. But what you're hearing, they're the fins on the back of that converter, the exterior fins, I guess for cooling or something. I have no idea, but I've seen them on the back of every single automatic transmission ever. They're making contact back there with something. Hopefully it's not the bolt heads, but yeah, this isn't right. Like I said, this needs to go back about 1/3 of an inch. Yeah, 0.368, 0.32 inches. So yeah, exactly about 1/3 of an inch. It needs to go back. I don't know if there's going to be the clearance in there for it. Like I said, everything. This complete kit was supplied by Brett Dempsey Engineering, and right now it's no good. This was over $4,000, this whole conversion, and I'm not done yet because I still got to put the tail housing conversion on for the transfer case, and that's another $1,200. So I'm about $5,500 into this transmission setup that doesn't even work. So a couple small issues here. funny thing is, when you look at the adapter bracket that he has on the back of that transmission, it looks to be about 1/3 of an inch thick. So that pushes the bell housing out a little bit. Got to figure this out. Got to figure something out with this because it's just not working right now. I'm gonna pull the converter back off, get everything dust sealed back up, and we'll take a look at everything. I'm nasty right now. I've been grinding and grinding and grinding for a long time. Didn't want to bore you on the video with that. So I did some measurements and found out where this was hitting, and it was actually hitting along here. I ground that all down as flat as I possibly could to basically the same surface that the bolts mount to. There's a couple little spots I might be able to do a little bit more on, but it's not much. And then I chamfered the edge a little bit, and I think I got some clearance out of that. It's going to be hard to tell unless I put it all back together. I found some of the O-rings for the adapter kit that I got, and so I think I have success here. Ground it down quite a bit as I showed, cleaned it up, and got in there with the cookie cutter just a little bit. It looks like it's equally spaced around there. I might be able to come over a little bit, but I measured across from where it's resting to the pads, and I have over 1 inch of depth thickness. The only thing I'd have to worry about is the little ridges themselves and possibly the bolt heads, but I got 1.19, well 1.1 to 1.19 after grinding it down. So I think at this point the next thing would be is to bolt it back onto the transmission and try to install the torque converter, get it to rest at 1 inch, and spin it to see if it's going to stay in place. Oh, someone's fucking yelling out here. I'm gonna be nosy and go check it out. And my mailman just showed up. Yo, mailman. Someone's calling. This is Kevin. I'm here. Hey, how you doing, Brett? I think I got it. Back at it. Okay, so some updates here. The torque converter's not here no more. So I put the torque converter, I ground it all down and I fit it, and it fit where it needed to be, but then I was like, you know what, let me check it with the bolts. So I put the bolts in, and the torque converter was sitting out too far still, so it's actually going to make contact with the bolts. So I said a lot of nasty things in the video that I was already making, which is this video. So I edited all that out because I was getting frustrated because it wasn't working and I paid a lot of money for it. But to his credit, Brett got right back to me about 2 hours after I texted him, and we did some measurements and JW transmissions. He said that possibly they built it to the wrong spec. The balloon is actually too big, so the area that arches was actually making contact with the bolts. So the torque converter is back with JW transmission as of Friday, and they're gonna measure it. They're gonna talk to Brett to find out what can be done. They need to redo the torque converter, probably just rebuild a whole new one, or maybe they can use the back part of it, but they got to redo the balloon and the input shaft and the impeller. That all needs to be redone because its run out is too large. So yeah. So anyhow, my buddy Lucas just dropped this off. This is kind of cool. So this particular engine, the Patrol RB30 motor mounts don't cooperate with manifolds made for cars because they mount to the same location, but they have a higher arch because they're frame mounted, so they come out to the side. I've tried a full race manifold, a Blackworks racing manifold, an HKS manifold, And the only other option was cheap eBay manifolds. This here is just a junk one that I was modifying at one point. So this is 304 stainless. They're 2 vibrant flanges. This one here is T3 divided. This one here is T4 divided because my turbo's T4 divided. It has a 3/16 stainless plate all the way down. It's completely divided all the way through, even divided into the wastegate. It is a 44, well actually a 45 millimeter wastegate flange. So this is a 45 and that's a 45, but it was trimmed down. It's pretty much a 90-degree now on a close radius. So we just test fit this. So this goes just like that. And gets the turbo to mount very high up using a stock manifold. The wastegate dump is right underneath, and the turbo is going to sit up pretty high. You know, higher than some people would want. It would never work in a car, but it works in a Patrol because there's a million inches of room. So yeah, so pretty interesting. But it's a T3 to T4 adapter essentially, with a divided wastegate pattern that keeps the gases completely separated and allows me to use a factory RB25 manifold, which there's nothing wrong with. I've made a ton of power on these things before. This one here was me poking around on trying to modify the stock one, but even with the stock one, I couldn't fit my turbo on it because it's just too big. So just turning it up and doing what I'm doing, it's going to make it work perfect. It'll clear the AC lines, and we're good to go. So, so while we're figuring out the whole transmission thing, so there's my trans back there all wrapped up. I don't know if I have to pay for a new torque converter. It's been over a year, but it's never been installed. Hopefully he does right on that and stands by it, because he spec'd that product and that did not fit. Has nothing to do with what I did. I just hope him and JW Trans are cool about it and make it right. Or if they do need a little bit of money, it's a little bit of money and not another $1,000 for a torque converter that I paid for that was completely useless. But Brett's been real cool about the situation. I like the way he's handling it so far. If he doesn't handle it the right way, then I'll be upset, but there's no reason to cry wolf yet. Oh, you're probably wondering about these chains. So the motor's sitting on a wooden block on the sway bar, but when you lift the front of the truck up, the motor likes to tilt down, so this keeps it from basically falling too far down the back. And this guy here, we wrapped it around here and lifted the whole truck up, so we can get the trans in and out without trying to jack it up. It was just being lazy. So the flywheel flex plate bolts, ARP did some lookup for me. KA24DE flywheel bolts are the correct length. They're 5 millimeters shorter than the RB25 ones, so that's what I'll be ordering for getting the flex plate, getting the flex plate onto the crankshaft, and then the converter right now is with JW Trans, so I should hear something back in a few days on that. In the meantime, I'm just gonna move forward with everything, but figured I'd give you guys an update and let you know what's going on with everything. So yeah, it's the waiting game right now. I'll hear back from Brett over at Brett Dempsey Engineering, who is working with JW Transmissions on getting that converter taken care of. I have ordered the flex plate bolts for now, and then I'll just start wiring the thing up and take along the process. This week I'm also going to be picking up my powder coat parts for the 4BT for the Bentley, so some updates on that.